Sound on? Sound's working. And I'll start at exactly. Sound's working.
Now I've got to put this pen away though, because
Yeah. Well, no, you can do whatever you need to do. Well, no, you can do whatever you need to do. Oh.
it's a beautiful tallit you're wearing, sir.
Thank you. It was a gift a rabbi gave it to me from Jerusalem.
Ah,
Yeah.
אתה מדבר עברית?
I'm sorry.
אתה מדבר עברית?
Okay, so I'm going to have you both not talk right now because we are live. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to Agudath Israel Etz Ahayem Synagogue here in Montgomery, Alabama. I am Rabbi Scott Kramer. Welcome to our service. I have a very, very special guest on the bima with me. Cantor Neil Schwartz of Dothan is here. He is going to be running services next Friday night and Saturday and the weekend after, because I will be in Orange Beach with Irene on vacation, as they say. So he is here. He's going to be coming up when something happens on the screen that I am going to show him. So pardon me for it being a little awkward. This is how it has to work. So thank you all for joining. We are praying out of Sidor Lev Shalem, and we will begin tonight's service on, sorry, I did not have my Sidor open. There we go. Page 5, we'll begin with Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We continue with Psalm 95, page 11. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Naria, naria, l'tzor yishenu, nekad mafana betodah. Naria, naria, l'tzor yishenu, bizmirot naria lo. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Naria, naria, l'tzor yishenu, nekad mafana betodah. Naria, naria, l'tzor yishenu, bizmirot naria lo. Please join me in the English. Let us go and sing to Adonai. Let us trumpet praise to our protector. Filled with thanks, let us greet God, raising our voice in song. Great is Adonai, a greater sovereign than all other deities. God's hands formed the earth's deep. Mountain crests too are God's work. The sea is God's, for God made it. Dry land was fashioned by God's hands. Come then, let us bow and kneel. Let us bend our knees in the presence of Adonai who formed us. For Adonai is our God, and we are God's flock, sheep in God's caring hands. If only you would listen today to God's voice and not become hard-hearted, like the people at Merivah, like the time at Massah, in the desert when your ancestors tried me and tested me, though they had seen what I had wrought. For 40 years I was troubled by that generation, and I said, these are people whose hearts have gone astray. They do not know my ways, so in anger I swore they would not enter my rest. 40 shana kut bedor v'omaram toeh levavim v'hem lo yadid rachai asher nishpati v'yapi im yavon el menuchati. Page 13, Psalm 96. Ashiru ladonai shir chadash, shiru ladonai kol haaretz, shiru ladonai baruch shemo, basru miyom leyom yeshuato, sapru vagoyim kevodo, bechol amim nifliotav, ki gadol Adonai, o mehulal miyob. No rao, I'll go Elohim, la, kiko Elohe, amim elilim, vadonai shamayim asa, od vehadar lefanav, oz v'tiferet b'mikdasho, avu ladonai, mishpachot amim, avu ladonai, kavod v'oz, avu ladonai, ke'evod shemo, seu mincha, Ovahu lechatzerot av laila, shtachavu ladonai, behadrat kodesh, chilu mipanav kol haaretz, imru vagoyim, Adonai malach, latikum tevel balatimot, yadina amim b'meisharim, yismechu eshamayim v'tagil haaretz, Ayiram mayamu melo yalo sadai vechol asher bo lai az yiranenu kol hatziyar lifnei Adonai kiva lishpot haaretz yishpot tevel betzedek v'yamim be'emunato yalai la lai 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 la la lai lai yai lai 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 yalai la lai la lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai lai lai. We continue page 16 with Psalm, did I have the right page? Yep. Nope, I'm sorry. Psalm 97, page 15, sorry. Wrong page. Adonai reigns, let the earth be glad, the many distant lands rejoice. Clouds and thick darkness surround the divine. Righteousness and justice secure God's throne. Fire goes before God, consuming besiegers round about. Flashes of lightning illumine the land. The earth watches and trembles. Mountains melt like wax at the approach of Adonai, at the approach of the Master of all the earth. The heavens tell of God's righteousness, and all the nations see God's glory. Worshippers of idols be shamed for praising false gods. All that is deemed supreme bow before God. Zion hears of it and rejoices. The cities of Judah exult as you, Adonai, pass judgment. You, Adonai, are above all that is earthly, exalted over all that is worshipped as divine. Those who love Adonai hate evil. God protects the lives of the faithful, saving them from the hands of the sinful. Light is sown for the righteous and joy for the upright. Rejoice in Adonai, you righteous people, and thank God as you pronounce the divine holy name. Or Zarulat Tzadik Ulishrolev Simcha, Simchu Tzadikim Badunai, Vahoduhu Alazecher Kadisho, page 17, Psalm 98. Excuse me. Mizmor shiru ladonai shir chadash ki niflot asa hoshia lo yemino uzaro akocho adia Adonai Yeshuato le'ena goyim gilad tzid kato zachar chesto ve'emunato Leveit Yisrael Rocholav Se'aretz Et Yeshuat Eloheinu Horiu Ladonai Kol Haaretz Pitzchum Veranenu V'zameru Zamru Ladonai Bechinor V'kol Zimara B'chatzot Rod V'kol Shofar Ariel lifnei amelech Adonai Yiramayam umaloho Tevel v'yoshveva Neharot yimchaucha Yachad arim yiranenu Lifnei Adonai kivo Lishbot haaretz Yishbot Tevel b'tzedek Ve'amim b'meisharim Yalai la 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 Yalai la 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 Yalai la 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 Yalai la 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 Yalai la 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 Yalai la 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 Yalai la 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 Yalai la 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 la. We're on page 19 with Psalm 99. Adonai reigns, nations tremble. The one enthroned amidst the cherubim makes the world quake. Adonai is great in Zion above all nations. They shall acknowledge your name, saying, Great, all-inspiring Holy One. A sovereign strength lies in the love of justice, and you forge the paths of truth, judging Jacob righteously and justly. Exalt Adonai, our God, and bow down before God, the Holy One. Moses and Aaron among God's priests, and Samuel among those who called upon the divine name, called to you, and you answered them. You spoke to them from amidst the cloud. They kept your covenant and the law you gave them. You answered them, Adonai, our God. You were a forgiving God to them, even as you punished them for their transgressions. Exalt Adonai, our God, and bow down at God's holy mountain. For Adonai, our God, is holy. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu lahar kadosho ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Page 21, Psalm 29. We rise if you are able. Mizmor leDavid, havu l'Adonai b'nei Elim, havu l'Adonai kavod va'oz, havu l'Adonai kavod shemo, ishtachavu l'Adonai behadrat kodesh, kol Adonai al hamayim, el hakavod hirim, Adonai amayim, amayim rabim, kol Adonai ba'koach, kol Adonai behadar, kol Adonai shover arazim, vayishaber Adonai et alzei halvanon, vayarkidem kemo egel Levanon v'Sirion kemo venreimim, kol Adonai chotzev lavotesh, kol Adonai yachil midbar, yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, kol Adonai yecholeo ayalot, vayechasab yarod, uvehechalo kulo, omer, omer, kavod, Adonai lamabul yashav, vayeshev Adonai melech leolam, Adonai oz leamo yiten, Adonai yivarech etamo v'shalom, etamo v'shalom. You may be seated. We continue page 23 with Lechadodi. Lecha dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nikabila. Lecha dodi likrat Kala Pnei Shabbat nikabila. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad. Hishmianu elam yuchad. Adonai echad. Ushamo echad. L'shem u'tiferet v'liti la lecha. Dodi likrat. Kala Pnei Shabbat nikabila. Likrat Shabbat. Lechu v'nelcha ki mekor aberacha merosh mikedem nesucha sov maaseh mimachshvat chila lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabila mikdash melech ir melucha kumitzi mitocha hafecha ravlach shevet B'yemek havacha v'yachamo alaychem la lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabila hitnari me'afar kumi livshevik de tifartechami ayad ben yishai beit alachmi korva el nafshi geyala lecha dodi likrat Kala Pnei Shabbat nikabila hitoreri kiva ore kumi ori shir daberi kivod Adonai alayich nigla lecha dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nikabila lecha dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nikabila lo tevoshi v'lo tikami matish tochachi umatemi bach yechesu ani ayami v'nivneta ir al tila lecha dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nikabila v'hayulam shisa Shawasayich v'rakakuko mivalayich yasis alayich Elohayich kimchas chatan al kala lecha dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nikabila yamin usmo Tifoti v'yeta Adonai taritzi ayadish ben parti v'nismecha v'nagila lecha dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nikabila. We rise if you are able. We face towards the entrance. We face towards the west to greet the Shabbat bride. Boi v'shalom ateret pala gam besimcha uvetzala toch emunei am segula boi chala lecha dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nikabila. You may be seated. We're on page 27. Psalm 92. Mizmor Yom HaShabbat. Tov lodot ladonai. Tov lodot ladonai. Ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. O tov lodot ladonai, tov lodot ladonai, tov lodot ladonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, tov lodot ladonai. Lehagid baboker chastecha, lehagid baboker chastecha, Ve'emunatcha baleilot, ve'emunatcha baleilot, tov lodot l'Adonai, lehagid baboker chastecha, lehagid baboker chastecha, ve'emunatcha baleilot, ve'emunatcha baleilot, tov lodot l'Adonai. Tzadik tamar yifrach ki erez balvanon yizke shetulim bevet Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od yenuvon beseva deshenim verananim yeyu lehagid ki yashar Adonai tzuri v'lo avlatabo. Page 29, Psalm 93. Adonai is sovereign, robed in splendor, girded in strength. The earth stands firm, not to be dislodged. From earliest time you are enthroned, you are eternal. The rivers rise up, Adonai, the rivers raise up their roar. The rivers raise up their waves above the roar of the vast sea and the majestic breakers of the ocean. Adonai stands supreme in the heavens. In your house, beautiful in its holiness, your testimonies endure, Adonai, for all time. Again, Shabbat Shalom to everyone who's joined us this evening. So glad you've taken the time to join us, our community, for the celebration, the beginning of Shabbat. A couple announcements before, the old joke is, I need to tell you something before I actually tell you something. So I just want to welcome Cantor Neil Schwartz, who you can see sitting in the chair behind me. Cantor Neil Schwartz is currently he resides in Dothan. He is newly retired, and you know what happens when you become retired? You become more busy in your life than you ever were before. So Cantor Schwartz will be my cover when I'm out of town, which will be the next 2 weekends. And he will also do other little odd jobs. If a funeral comes up, he will cover for me. And I'm so glad that Cantor Neil is with us. He has been a colleague and a friend for, my goodness, I don't know how many years. Did we meet for the first time at Cage? I think so. We met at a teachers conference called Cage. The first one I went to was at the University of Connecticut. I knew his son before I knew him, because his son taught at Ramat Darom. David taught it, and David is now in Chicago, married with kids, and is not at Ramat Darom. But it's funny how the Jewish world seems to be ever close and small, and how we meet each other in life. Again, I will be on vacation the next 2 weeks. Irene and I are going to go, or try to go, down to Orange Beach and relax. good luck with that, with us. And anyway, and Cantor Schwartz will be here. Irene says hello, by the way, online. Trying to keep up with all the comments. And so glad all of you are with us. This Torah portion for this week is called Chukat. And it's a mysterious parsha on many levels. It begins after the rebellions and growing pains of the second year following the Exodus from Egypt. Between chapters 19 and 20 of Numbers, 38 years of wandering pass mysteriously, without a single detail being mentioned. Suddenly, we have come to the 40th and final year before the people enter the land of Israel. But Chukat asks us to confront an even greater mystery, the fundamental mystery of death. How do we face death and what happens to us, the survivors in that process? How do we come into contact with the reality of death? And how do we heal and continue living? The Parsha begins with a description of the purification ritual using the water made from the ashes of the red heifer. This is the water which purifies someone who has had contact with a dead body. But the paradox is that the individual who prepares this purification water becomes tameh, or impure. There are many teachings which attempt to understand what we can learn from this mysterious ritual. The first thing that happens to the people in the 40th year is the death of Miriam. The Midrash, an interpretive tradition, reads this as a traumatic event for all of the Israelites and for her brothers, Moses and Aaron. Her passing leaves them thirsty, both literally and figuratively. Moses and Aaron's attempt to fill the void left by her passing leads to a significant rift in their relationship with God. Later in the Parsha, Aaron also dies. The narrative of his death is rather factual, but there are powerful and moving midrashim which imagine the conversation and emotions of Moses and Aaron at that moment. There is a third person who is also part of this story, Aaron's son, Eleazar. He accompanies his father and his uncle to the top of Mount Hor and is present at his father's death. We are given a tantalizing detail which offers us a rich area for exploration when we face the loss of a loved one. Moses is instructed to take the garments of the high priest off of Aaron and to place them on Eleazar. When the two of them come down the mountain, Eleazar is wearing the priestly clothing which his father wore on the journey up the mountain. On a peshat, or literal level, this represents the transition of the priesthood from one generation to the next and the promise of continuity of ritual leadership for the people. When death takes a loved one from us, there are both literal and metaphorical meanings to the clothing and other personal possessions of the loved one. When what we keep ourselves, what we give away to family, friends, charities, or strangers, when we can bear to make those decisions, if we even have the luxury of time and space to not rush the process, are deeply compelling issues. Some will immediately give away everything, while others can't handle throwing out anything, even things that are clearly not wearable again. If we go beyond the literal and allow ourselves to consider the deeper meaning of Eliezer having his father's clothing placed on him, we can open up a healing process. What does it mean to wear your loved one's clothing, to carry their legacy? Which parts fit you and feel right as you wear them? Which pieces do you want to grow into, to strive to incorporate in a new way in your life? Which items are placed on you against your will? Which things do you need to acknowledge as a part of your loved one's legacy, which had their own value and meaning, but will not be part of your wardrobe? We always carry our deceased loved ones with us and on us. One of the great mysteries of death is that as we heal and find comfort, we remain clothed in loving presence, even when our loved one is no longer physically present. Shabbat Shalom. We continue with Ma'ariv, page 39a. We rise for the call to worship the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai Varach Le'olam Va'ed. You may be seated. Baruch et Adonai, our God, sovereign of time and space, whose word brings the evening dusk, whose wisdom opens the gates of dawn, whose understanding changes the day's division, whose will sets the succession of seasons and arranges the stars in their places in the sky, who creates day and light, who rolls light before darkness and darkness from light, who makes day pass into night, who distinguishes day from night. Adonai Tzavaot is your name, living and ever-present God. May your rule be with us forever and ever. Baruch et Adonai, who brings each evening's dusk. U'mahavir yom u'mevi laila, mavdil ben yom u'vein laila, Adonai Tzavaot Shemo, El chai v'kayam tamid imlo cholenu lam voed, Baruch et Adonai, Hamariv Aravim, page 40. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael, amchavta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, b'shachveinu v'kumeinu, nesiach bechukecha, v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, uv'mitzvotecha, le'olam voed. Ki heim chayenu, v'orech yameinu, uvahem nege yomam v'layla, v'yavatcha tasim imenu la'olamin. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, והיה אם שמוע תשמעו מצותי אשר אנוכי. ויאמר אדוני משה לאמור דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת להם ויעשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורתם ונתנו על ציצית תקנה פתיל תכלת, והיה לכם לציצית וראיתם אותו וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני ועשיתם אותם, ולא תטו אחרי לבבכם לאחרי עיניכם אשר אתם זונים אחריהם, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, Adonai Elohechem Emet, page 43a. This is our enduring affirmation binding on us that Adonai is our God, and there is none other, and we, Israel, are God's people. God is our sovereign, redeeming us from earthly rulers, delivering us from the hand of all tyrants, bringing judgment upon our oppressors, and just retribution upon all our mortal enemies, performing wonders beyond understanding and marvels beyond all reckoning. God places us among the living, not allowing our steps to falter, and leads us past the false altars of our enemies, exalting us above all those who hate us. Adonai avenged us with miracles before Pharaoh, offered signs and wonders in the land of Egypt. God brought Israel from its midst to lasting freedom and led them through the divided waters of the Sea of Reeds. As their pursuers and enemies drowned in the depths, God's children beheld the power of the divine. They praised and acknowledged God's name. Page 44. ומלכותו ברצון קיבלהם משה ובני ישראל הנשירה בשמחה רבה ויאמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדור בקודש נהורה תהילות אוסף אלה. מלכותך ובניך בוקיים לפני משה, זה לי אנו ויאמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגלת מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. Page 45. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ותקננו בעצה טובה מלפניך, והושיענו למען שמך. ושמוצאתנו ואין לחיים ושלום יתה ויהיה לעולם, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך Baruch Adonai, haporet sukat shalom aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael v'al Yerushalayim. We rise, if you are able, page 46. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam, oti le'olam, oti le'olam. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim v'et ha'aretz. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. Uvayom hashvi Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. We remain standing for the Friday night Amidah. This is a silent Amidah, pages 47 through 52. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol ha-shalom. Ki atahu melech adon lechol ha-shalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. V'tov be'enecha levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. Tasim leolam, tasim leolam. We rise as the ark is open for Aleinu, page 56. Okay. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol latet gdula liotze bereshit shelo asana k'goyei haratzot velo samanu k'mishmachot adama shelo sam chilkenu kahem v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam v'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lefnei melech malchei hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shehu Notei Shamayim v'Yosed Haaretz, U'Moshev Yikara b'Shamayim Imau, U'Shchinatu Zo, Begavei Meromim, Hu Eloheinu Einod, Emet Malkeinu Evazulato, Kakatu B'Torato, V'yadat Ahayem, v'hashivota elevavecha, ki Adonai hu Elohim, b'shamayim imal, v'yal haaretz mi tachat einod al kein nikvelach Adonai Eloheinu, lirod mehe b'tivecha zachar. Gagadu b'toratecha Adonai imloch le'olam voed v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz bayom ha'u yeh Adonai echad Ushamo echad. You may be seated. This week we will observe yard sites for Samuel Botko. Excuse me 1 second. That's off. Samuel Botko, Esther Capuano, Harry Feinstein, Morris Stern, Annie Arnovitz, Joe Byrne, Karen Weinstein, Wolf Burns, Sultana E. Capiluto, Richard Stenger, Robert Thresher, Isaac Droher, and Ray Katz Waller. Those observing yard site and those who mourn, please rise and join me, page 58, for the Kaddish Tome, the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayichon v'yamechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agalav v'zman kariv v'mahu amen, yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'elam omel maya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalol, shmei d'kudisha b'richu, Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da miran b'yoma v'yimaru amen, yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimaru amen. Oseh shalom b'imramav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimaru amen. You may be seated. Thank you all for joining me this evening as we celebrate Kabbalat, as we celebrate the beginning of Shabbat together. And I want to again thank Cantor Neil Schwartz, who's also with me this weekend, learning learning the technology that brings this magic to your living room every week on Friday night and Saturday. He will be conducting services while I am on vacation. Irene and I are on vacation the next 2 weeks, so he will be here instead of me, and so you'll get a trained cantor leading services. His melodies will be different and more melodic and more cantorial than I offer. So you may not want me back. You may want to have him come be here permanently. And you know, we have such a wealth of riches. We have Cantor Neal that's joining us this weekend. We have did I not say it was Cantor Neal? Did I? Okay, somebody. Yes, that was Cantor Neal Schwartz. Yes, and we have Charles Barron, who is our chazan for the high holidays, and we also have our student cantor, Carl Sayers, who comes in, and he will be in the weekend of Tisha B'Av. So we have so much to offer here at Agudath Israel, Etz Ahayem, and I hope that over the next 2 weeks, if you find it okay to join Cantor Neal in the sanctuary, so he doesn't feel so lonely. I know we have over 25 to 40 people online right now, and it feels great. But you know, we would love to see some people in the sanctuary too. And by the way, we've started onegs again on Friday nights, kiddushes on Saturday morning. So come for the food. And there goes all of the smiles. This is why I like Facebook a lot, because I get to see all of those happy faces that go by. Thank you, Charles, for that. I will be here tomorrow morning, 9:30 a.m. for Shabbat's continuation of Shabbat services. And I will be here Monday morning for our Monday morning minyan at 7:15. Then I will disappear. By the way, we have breakfast on Mondays and Thursdays now as well. So you have another reason to come and be in services in person if you are able. And I want to mention that if you check out the synagogue's website, aieamontgomery.org, you can now order the honey jars for the high holidays. And with that, let me see if I always miss something, Irene. Well, somebody will yell at me. No, it's enough. That is enough. So thank you. We will conclude our services on page 211 with Adon Olam. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra li'ed nasa v'chefso kol azai melech shemo nikra azai melech shemo nikra v'yacharek kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה והוא יהיה בתפארה והוא אחד ואין שני להמשילו להכבירה בלי ראשית בלי תכלית ולא העוז והמשרה ולא העוז והמשרה והוא אלי וחגו עלי וצור חבלי ביצרה והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי ביום מקרא, מנת כוסי ביום מקרא, בידו הפקיד רוחי בית אישן ויעירה, ואם רוחי גוויעתי, אדוני לי ולא אירא, אדוני לי ולא אירא. שבת